Well, good evening, everyone, or maybe good morning or afternoon, depending where you're joining us from. We're at T minus 20 minutes and counting till the launch of Rocket Lab's PREFIRE mission for NASA and JPL. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad Network, and here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together, and we got lots of people tuning in from all over the world. Take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. We got Joseph watching in Switzerland, Williams in Seattle, Washington, JD83 is in France. It's great to see you. We got Terry in Penrith, Australia, Windbreakers in Northwest Arkansas. We've got David in Death Valley, Manchester is in Manchester, UK, and we got Ian in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's great to see so many of you tuning in bright and early for those of us here in North America for a launch of an Electron rocket. Today's mission is launching from Rocket Lab's Launch Complex 1B at the Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand, carrying the first of two missions for NASA, the PREFIRE Mission 1. PREFIRE, standing for Polar Radiant Energy in the Far Infrared Experiment, will send two CubeSats into space to study how much heat the planet absorbs and emits from its polar regions, including the Arctic and Antarctic. This analysis will inform climate and ice models, providing better predictions of how a warming world will affect sea ice loss, ice sheet melt, and sea level rise, and help improve climate models. As I said, this is the first of a pair of missions launching on Electron. We were expecting Rocket Lab to begin their live coverage here at the T-minus 20 minute mark, so we'll hopefully see them begin that soon. As always, if you have questions, you can send those in the chat by taking us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on answering those live throughout today's stream. Rocket Prophet, thank you so much for becoming a suborbital explorer. Ian gifting a membership. Looks like it went to Sharon. Thank you so much for supporting us in that way. If you'd like to never miss another live launch coverage, make sure you engage that subscribe button. If you'd like to help support our mission, just like you see Ian and Rocket Prophet do, you can hit that join button, or you can share and gift memberships, and all that goes back into helping expand our coverage, bringing you the best possible coverage of everything space from around the world. Our team is already planning who's heading out in the field for Flight 4 of Starship, and we're already planning Flight 5 as well. We've been planning for Artemis 2 for many months, and lots of exciting things coming up in the near future as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. As I said, if you have questions, you can send those in the chat by taking us at the Launchpad. We're waiting to see if we have any updates come in from Rocket Lab for today's flight, as we are now at T-minus 17 minutes from the estimated liftoff time. Rocket Lab did confirm just before this that they are set for that launch time, and that things are continuing towards it. They have just not begun their live broadcast as of yet, but we are patched in, and we'll be sharing that with you as soon as they do begin that, and we will listen in to Rocket Lab Mission Control for updates. And there we go. As we said, we were waiting. They're beginning their intro there. So, about a minute away from updates from Rocket Lab Mission Control. If you're just joining us, welcome. You're joining us for the first of two launches with Rocket Lab for NASA and JPL in the PREFIRE mission, where they are launching a pair of CubeSats to low Earth orbit. Today's mission, Ready Aim PREFIRE, is targeting a liftoff time of 3:28 a.m. Eastern Time. Electron is a three-stage launch vehicle that stands 18 meters tall with a 4-meter fairing. Costs an average of $7.5 million per flight. It is able to carry 320 kilograms to low Earth orbit. PREFIRE, standing for Polar Radiant Energy in a Far Infrared Experiment, is the first of two missions launching from Rocket Lab Launch Complex 1B at the Mahia Peninsula. Let's listen in to Rocket Lab Mission Control.
On Rocket Lab Launch Complex 1, the world's first private orbital launch site. Our Electron rocket is standing tall and ready on the pad in Pad B in Mahia, New Zealand, as we count down to today's launch for NASA. Thanks for joining us for our 48th Electron launch and our 6th mission of the year, scheduled for liftoff at 19:28 local or 7:28 UTC. It's bright and early for our Eastern and Pacific viewers, with a liftoff time set for 03:28 Eastern and 28 minutes past midnight Pacific. My name is James Rattray.
And I'm Kim Thompson. We're looking forward to another liftoff tonight for NASA. Today is the first of two back-to-back launches on Electron that we're undertaking for NASA's PREFIRE mission, a climate change-focused mission to measure heat loss from the coldest regions of our planet. NASA loves an acronym, so PREFIRE stands for Polar Radiant Energy in the Far Infrared Experiment, which describes the mission objectives for these spacecraft to detect how much thermal energy escapes the Arctic and Antarctica into space. We're supporting this NASA mission with two dedicated launches on Electron to carry one satellite each to a 525-kilometre low Earth orbit on a polar trajectory so that the satellites can travel across the polar regions to make their heat loss measurements.
That's right. Today's Ready, Aim, PREFIRE launch will set the stage for the second mission, where it will deploy the second PREFIRE satellite on a similar trajectory but along a slightly different path to overlap with the PREFIRE 1 every few hours near the poles. So what's all of this got to do with climate change? Well, the amount of heat energy that Earth receives from the sun should ideally be balanced out by the amount that Earth
top of our atmosphere.
And it looks like they had a little bit of latency come up there on their live stream while we were waiting for them to go live. So we are syncing our clocks and streams with RocketLab there. T-minus 14 minutes. 27 seconds and counting now till launch. We will patch in RocketLab Mission Control here in just a moment again to listen in for more updates. They've been playing a video for, it looks like, most of that time that we had that latency occur during the pairing to their RocketLab feed. So apologies with that, but we've got it synced back up, and we are now counting down T-minus 14 minutes, 5 seconds and counting till launch. As always, you can continue to send in your questions in the chat by taking us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live while we continue through today's flight. Now, payload deployment is expected to occur 53 minutes, 6 seconds into flight, and RocketLab doesn't normally have live coverage of those payload deployments. They normally will do an animation. So with that, once we have confirmation of a good orbit and the vehicle going into a coast phase, we will end our live coverage there, and you can follow along on social media for confirmation of deployment. That is so we can give our teams time to rest and prepare as we get ready for counting down to Starliner and the Starship flights and some other launches that are coming up over the next few days, as it is the middle of the night for most of our team. Coming up to T-minus 13 minutes and counting, catching up on the chat and the questions that you are sending in. Andy, thanks so much for becoming a member for 16 months there. Ian, I can heavily relate to the yawn. Sorry about that, but yes. Spaceflight X, you sound tired. Make sure you get some good sleep. Space never sleeps, so it's always fun working around the clock. TLP will rocket launch, share their findings through a website. Which one? So the data will go to NASA, but NASA is a publicly funded organization, so most of that data should become public through NASA in the near future. Let's listen back in to RocketLab Mission Control at T-minus 12 minutes, 30 seconds and counting.
Great climate change mission by NASA that we can't wait to see launch on Electron.
We should be listening in for that go, no, go poll. This is the final go, no, go to enter terminal count. T-minus 12 minutes and counting.
And all stations, we have held the count at T-minus 12 minutes. Please await further instruction once we get some good data on this winds.
As we just heard from the launch director there, we have entered a hold at T-minus 12 minutes to do with ground winds. We'll sit with Mission Control and we'll listen out for an update on those conditions.
And as you heard there, they have entered a hold at T-minus 12 minutes. This is where we normally see them go into a hold if there are any issues before they enter that terminal count. They say it's due to ground wind conditions, so we'll wait to see if we have an update on that in the near future on how those wind conditions will affect today's flight. Taking a look at the launch window, they do have a 1 hour launch window opportunity. So this extends from 3:15 Eastern to 4:15 Eastern. They were currently targeting a liftoff time of 3:28 Eastern time. So they do have about about middle of the night rough math, about 40 minutes, 45 minutes that they would be able to adjust the timeline should they think that the ground winds are going to clear. Now, given that, though, they do need to still do that terminal count, go, no, go, and resume the clock. So, if we do not see that resuming by the top of the hour, they will not be able to have launch opportunity here. They do have more opportunities throughout May and into June, should they need to. So, we have about 40 minutes maximum for them to clear the winds, or hope to clear the winds, for them to go into a terminal countdown as we continue to hold at T-minus 12 minutes. And as Windbreaker said just before, they called that heavy-looking winds this morning. Yes, it does. Electron is fully fueled, ready to go, but they are monitoring those low-level winds, those ground-level winds. Terry, thank you so much for being a Martian Explorer for 2 months. We appreciate that support. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live. We do have the mission control that's patched in, and we'll be listening into those, but we'll take a quick commentary break while we wait an update from RocketLab Mission Control.
If you've just tuned in to today's webcast for the launch of PREFIRE M1, you'll notice that the countdown clock has stopped ticking. That's because we've entered a hold at T-minus 12 minutes due to high ground winds. Now, today's window is about 30 minutes long, so we've got plenty of time to wait for them to fall within bounds, but unfortunately we are at the mercy of the weather, so there's not a whole lot we can do about it. But let's keep listening in to Mission Control for updates to see how that wind is trending. T0 time based on those pesky ground winds, not the same pesky upper level winds that we often see in the space industry that prevent us from launching. Pesky ground winds today. We do have about 25 minutes remaining in the count here, remaining in the window, so there's still plenty of time for those to come well within bounds.
on mission. We're going to resume the count very shortly here. Please be prepared for the go, no go poll and raise any issues you foresee immediately. Vcon LD mission.
LD Vcon.
Can you please resume the count at this current time?
The count is resumed.
Okay, all stations LD on mission, proceeding with the go, no go sequence. Stage.
Stages go.
Avionics.
Avionics is go.
GNC.
GNC is go.
Vcon.
Vcon's go.
T1.
T1 is go.
GC.
GC is go.
PLS.
PLS is go.
RSO.
RSO is go.
MET.
MET is go.
RF.
RF is go.
And MM.
MM is go.
LD sub.
LD sub is go.
Okay, all stations, the go, no go sequence is now complete. We are T-minus 11 minutes and 8 seconds and counting. We're go for terminals count auto sequence at T-minus 10 minutes. From this time, the 3-word hold procedure is in effect. And just one note for all stations that we are still tracking these ground winds, so be prepared in case we need to hold.
Well, there we go. That is greens across the board for our go, no-go poll, and the team is ready to proceed with all remaining launch operations. As you heard the launch director call out as well, we have a liftoff time for Ready Aim Pre-Fire set for 19:41 local time, now in less than 11 minutes.
Today's launch for NASA's PREFIRE mission is the first of 2 back-to-back launches on Electron that will fly out of LC1. But, in a bit of a coincidence, this time in May last year, we had the first of 2 rockets on the pad for back-to-back launches for another NASA climate science mission, the Tropics mission, to monitor for hurricanes and tropical cyclones. Now, on our 36th and 37th launches, we deployed 4 storm-watching satellites to low Earth orbit that are helping weather researchers learn more about how environmental factors are contributing to the intensity and structure of hurricanes.
Stage 1 igniter pressures verified. Hydraulic pressures verified. LDGC mission.
This animation from NASA shows data that the Tropics satellites collected for some of the first storms of the Eastern Pacific hurricane season last year. Across nearly 24 takes by the Tropics satellites at the time, what you're seeing here is data that shows the evolution of Hurricane Adrian's storm clouds as it developed near the west coast of Mexico but moved away from land. Our 2 launches for the Tropics mission were a great example of how we support important science causes with responsive launch on Electron that gets satellites to exactly where they go. We caught up with mission manager Rebecca Sutton to take a look back.
made of carbon composite material throughout its main structures, which is what gives Electron its black appearance. Apart from its looks, of course, carbon composite construction helps to decrease Electron's mass by as much as 40% compared with traditional aluminium structures. Weighing about a tonne in dry mass, once fully fueled with its liquid oxygen and kerosene propellants, Electron reaches a liftoff mass of 13 times that to get the rocket and its payloads through Earth's atmosphere and into space.
Powering that first stage are 9 Rutherford engines, each of them 3D printed and powered by batteries. With individual capability of up to 5,600 pounds of thrust at sea level, combined, the 9 engines produce around 50,600 pounds of thrust to achieve liftoff. Once Electron has made it to space, its separation system employs pneumatic pushes to separate the first stage from the second, which has a single space-optimized Rutherford engine that powers the mission the rest of the way to orbit. Shortly after the Stage 2 Rutherford engine lights up, Electron separates its fairing, or nose cone, which you can see at the top of the rocket on your screen. This is what surrounds and protects NASA's satellite aboard our orbital transfer vehicle, called the kick stage.
That's right, the kick stage is designed to enable all sorts of mission requirements, including deploying payloads at multiple planes and inclinations, and higher altitude deployments and trajectory changes, which we demonstrated last launch. This innovative little platform has an engine of its own, called Curie, that's capable of multiple restarts on orbit, and which can perform orbit raising and lowering manoeuvres, depending on the mission. For today's first pre-fire launch, though, Curie will light up to circularise the kick stage and its attached satellites once it's been dropped off to its staging orbit by Electron's second stage.
LD GC mission.
GC LD.
ECS is disabled, pad auto sequence is armed.
And just like that, we are now at T-minus 4 minutes in the countdown to lift off for Ready, Aim, Pre-Fire. In a few moments, at T-minus 2 minutes, Electron's flight computer will take over the countdown and autonomously run through the final operations. Liquid oxygen will continue to flow through the vehicle all the way up until T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds. We should hear a call out from Mission Control when that happens, who will indicate that the lock system is in recirculation. Shortly after that, we should hear confirmation that Electron's first and second stages are fully pressurized and ready for launch. And then it's through to T-minus 10 seconds and the countdown to liftoff by our launch director. We're going to hand it over now to Mission Control to listen in on those calls.
All stations LD on mission. From now, there should be no red flags on your critical LCCs. VCON LD mission.
LD VCON.
Lock, auto sequence, and confirm.
Confirmed, locked.
And confirm all expected primary flight computer ASGOs are green.
Confirmed, all ASGOs are green.
And all stations, we are go for auto sequence start at T-minus 2 minutes. LD is go for launch.
Vehicle is fully on internal power. AFTS is green and enabled for flight.
LOX load is complete. System is in recirculation. Anti-geysering is disabled.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 tanks are pressed for flight.
High flow engine purge is enabled.
T-minus 20 seconds and counting. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Beginning pitch over.
Stage 1 propulsion.
And with
nominal.
that, we have liftoff from Launch Complex 1 of our 48th Electron mission. Ready Aim PREFIRE is in the air and on its way to space with its NASA payload. Soon we'll be hearing the call out for max Q, otherwise known as maximum aerodynamic pressure, which is the point during Electron's ascent where the structure is under the most amount of stress. We'll hear from the GNC operator shortly that Electron has cleared that milestone.
High voltage battery discharge is nominal.
Cleared max Q.
And that was the max Q milestone, passed cleanly through by Electron as it carries on its mission to orbit for NASA. We're now at over 18 kilometers in altitude and moving at over 2,400 kilometers an hour. Next up will be 3 actions that are performed by Electron back to back to back. The first is main engine cutoff on the first stage, when all 9 Rutherford engines will shut
Guidance
down.
is nominal.
Next is stage separation, when the booster disconnects from stage 2. And then we will have second stage engine ignition, when the Rutherford engine on the second stage lights up to carry on with the mission. Those call-outs should be heard as MECO, stage separation, and second stage ignition. Let's listen in now.
Stage 1 propulsion holding nominal. Stand by for MECO in 30 seconds.
"15 seconds to staging."
Entered burner detect mode. MECO confirmed. Stage separation successful. Stage 2 ignition confirmed.
MECO, stage separation and engine start on that second stage. Electron is sailing smoothly through space so far. Now, that red hot engine nozzle that you see on your screen is what's powering Electron's second stage, past 105 kilometers in altitude and 8,350 kilometers an hour.
High voltage battery discharge nominal.
Now, although Electron is moving at over 7 times the
Stage 2
speed of
propulsion
sound, there's
nominal.
very little resistance in the vacuum of space. So the next major milestone coming up is fairing jettison, where the two halves of the rocket's nose cone will separate and fall back to Earth. On missions like this, where the payload is a tiny portion of our overall mass, we leave the fairing connected for a little while longer than usual. Now, we should see that fairing jettison occur just after 4 minutes, and hopefully we'll get a good shot of them separating and falling on their way back to Earth.
Fairing jettison succeeded.
And that there was the call out for fairing jettison, confirming that the nose cone on Electron has split apart and fallen away in preparation for NASA's PREFIRE satellite to deploy.
As you can see, we're at T plus 4 minutes and 41 seconds. Electron is travelling at speeds of 10,800 kilometres an hour and at an altitude of 174 kilometres.
Stage 2 propulsion nominal.
We're now coming up on the moment when the second stage Rutherford engine needs to perform its next action, a manoeuvre called the battery hot swap. This is a move unique to our Rutherford engine. Since its pumps are powered by batteries, by this point in the journey, we need to swap out the draining battery packs for a fresh set of new ones that will keep the engine running. The old batteries will be ejected, and you can usually see that happen on your screen, so keep an eye out on the shiny object on the right of your screen just after 6 minutes into the mission.
Throttling down.
Hot swap successful.
Another milestone down, that was battery hot swap for the second stage Rutherford engine. All is continuing nominally for Electron, its engine, and the mission as we carry on past 210 kilometres in altitude at more than 15,000 kilometres an hour. The next actions for the second stage will then be some of its last, including shutting down the Rutherford engine for SECO before separating the kick stage and NASA's PREFIRE satellite. Those milestones will happen back to back just after 9 minutes into the mission.
HVV battery discharge holding nominal.
T plus 7 minutes 46 seconds into this mission. The engine that you see on your screen is Electron's Rutherford engine. Now, as Kim mentioned before, the sea level version of that engine is capable of 5,600 pounds of thrust, and the vacuum version you see on your screen now is capable of 5,800 pounds of thrust. Now, Electron's total at liftoff is about 50,600 pounds, and compare that to a single Archimedes engine for our upcoming neutron rocket. The single Archimedes is capable of 165,000 pounds of thrust, which is the equivalent of 3 entire Electron rockets or 27 Rutherford engines on their own. It's now T plus 8 minutes and 30 seconds. That means we're coming up to the second stage engine cutoff for this launch, which is an action very similar to what Electron performed for the first stage separation earlier in the count. Now, much like before, Electron will power down its engines before separating the kick stage with its NASA payload. The timing of that shutdown is expected right as we reach our target 200 kilometer perigee. So let's listen out now for that engine shutdown and stage separation.
Seco confirmed.
Stage 3 separation confirmed. For orbit achieved.
And just like that, 9.5 minutes after lifting off, we are in space. The second stage engine has now shut down, and the kick stage has separated, ready to perform its own specific maneuvers to place NASA's payload into its target low Earth orbit for the PREFIRE mission.
We have a while to go until the kick stage completes its first half lap of Earth. It's at that point, when we're on the opposite side of the sphere to where we are now, that the kick stage will fire up its Curie engine to circularize its orbit ahead of release of the PREFIRE satellites out into space.
We'll be back on this webcast to listen through those final calls at around T plus 50 minutes. We'll see.
And if you're just joining us, welcome. We are now 10 minutes, 10 seconds into flight, and the Curie has separated, carrying the PREFIRE satellite now in a coast phase, as they just said, ahead of that final Curie burn, which is expected to occur about 40 minutes from now, with payload deployment about 45 to 50 minutes from now. Given the time of day, we are going to give you the blessing of time. If you want to stay up and watch, you can tune in on Rocket Lab's official broadcast. It's unexpected. It's unlikely that we will have any live views of payload deployment, as Rocket Lab generally doesn't. They will have a simulated view. So if you want to listen to updates, you can follow over on Rocket Lab on YouTube. But for our team to be able to get some rest and get back to work on another busy day, on another busy Saturday, we're going to wrap it up there. If for you your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here from the Launchpad, and here at the Launchpad Network, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. And if you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, space news update, or exclusive one-on-one interview. Make sure you join us over on the TLP Discord. That's where our community hangs out in between streams, and we would love to see you there. And if you're interested in becoming a part of the TLP crew as a launch commentator, moderator, or a TLP news journalist or researcher, make sure you take a moment and send in an application from the link in the chat. From our TLP remote studio at the TLP HQ, my name's Zach, and we will see you next time, because space is better together, and go PREFIRE 1.